Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining tonight at fourth webinar from the semi-marathon series from this year. Tonight we have a guest and the speaker from PMI Romania, Dumitrache. She's a psychologist, coach, and senior trainer. She has more than 18 years experience in IT industry and more than 14 years in leadership roles. She's holder of a PMI certification, and she's also a strong supporter of PM block tailoring. That being said, Anne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Răzvan. And thank you, PMI Romania, for your invite. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. One thing that Răzvan hasn't mentioned is that I come from the troops. So my first degree is in computer science. My first job was a programmer, and at some point in my career, I switched to testing. I know that's an odd transition. And then I switched to leadership. They had cookies. So 18 years of work in IT industry, as Răzvan mentioned, from which 14 have been in leadership and senior leadership positions in big companies. At some point during my career, I decided I don't want to do that until the end of my professional life. So I switched to psychology. So I started my second degree in psychology. In the same time, I switched to an operational role. So in my last 6 years of corporate life, I was a project manager and program manager for big projects, for cultural projects, risk projects. I've led projects with hacker in which companies have been hacked. I've led projects in which we supervised a data center movement for a company which was delivering COVID vaccines for NHS during the pandemics. So this is my ground experience, my PM experience. In the same time, and that links to our topic for today, emotional intelligence. In the same time, I've started in 2020 my own business in the training area, and I started doing leadership trainings, which were very concentrated on the concept of emotional intelligence. So I can say I speak about emotional intelligence as a core leadership competency since 2020, before it had been a mainstream. So in all my presentations, in the same time I'm a psychologist as well. So I quit my corporate life. So in all my presentations, I try to blend somehow the business concepts with the psychology concepts and with the personal development concepts. So that being said, let's hit the road. And we're going to cover 3 topics today. Why has emotional intelligence become so important in project management? Then we're going to talk about emotional intelligence in action in project management. And at the end, we're going to touch how can we improve our emotional intelligence. In terms of how this webinar is going to happen, I know that usually we do Q&A at the end. However, I encourage you, if you have a question, just pass it in the chat or just raise your hand, stop me. It's important. I don't have many slides. I only have 25 slides for the whole presentation. And I'm going to try to do it as interactive as possible. Okay? So, why is emotional intelligence important in project management? And although it's common knowledge, I'm going to talk a bit about what emotional intelligence is. And the easiest way for me to understand and present emotional intelligence is to relate to its core components. And these are 2 which are related to self-awareness. That means knowing your emotions, being aware of your emotions, and self-management, which includes managing your emotions and self-motivation. And two, which are related to social awareness, which means recognizing and understanding other people's emotions, what we commonly known as empathy, and social management. So managing the relationship with other people. So that includes taking care of other people, understanding other people's emotions, and reacting in towards that emotion. And to understand a bit how emotional intelligence evolved as component of project management, I want to take you in a very, very brief history of project management. So the first need of project management, I think it's since ancient age, the building of the pyramids. And I want to ask you a question. Feel free to write the answer in the chat or to speak it up. How much emotional intelligence in project management do you think it was needed in that time? So when you had people building pyramids, any emotional intelligence needed? Very tiny?
I think close to none.
Close to none, yeah. Just slaves build pyramids. No need for emotional intelligence there. Then we had the Middle Age, and we had the building of castles, cathedrals. How much emotional intelligence do you think it was needed then? If you're in charge of, you're the supervisor of building the castle or the cathedral, how much emotional intelligence was needed at that point? More, less, a bit more? At that point, we had the guilds. So there are the stonemasons, there are the carpenters. So whoever was building the castle had to take care of the guild. So how much they are paid, the communication, every guild wanted respect. So it was a kind of a bit of a stakeholder management, if you think. So there was some need of emotional intelligence in project management. Then we had the Industrial Revolution. So what do you think? Emotional intelligence need in project management increased or decreased? Use this if you think it increased. Use this if you think it decreased. What do you think?
Someone is saying in the chat, Anne, that as long as you work with people, is needed in all ages, I guess.
Yeah, but the level of emotional intelligence needed in order to work with people in Middle Age versus Industrial Revolution, do you think it increased or decreased? What do you think? Increased?
Increased.
Increased because they started working with people, not working the people.
You're only partially right, because at that point they realized we can replace people with machines, and the only thing that people need to do is operate machines, and it also rooted in efficiency. And Industrial Revolution is when the most autocratic leadership model appeared. So people are lazy. The concept was that people are lazy, and it's just a carrot and a stick. You just need to push them to do their work, either to use the stick, either to use the carrot. Yeah? And it was all the same. So in some ways we can say it increased, but in some ways it decreased. But it wasn't such a huge increase since Middle Age. Then, step by step, people were not the same. Some of them started accumulating knowledge. And we started to see a difference between people. They are not all the same. Those who accumulated more knowledge were more valuable to the projects than those who didn't. And they started to be included, and so the leadership model became more participative. So in the next years, okay, we had the World War and then World War I, World War II, and then the world post-World War, in which the industry started to collaborate. And all that led to an increase in emotional intelligence. And after that, it came, what happened in project management, it was that there was the need for standardization. And the first project management standards appeared. And at that point, it was all based on how we all know the standards. Everybody should apply the standards, everybody should apply the knowledge. And then we have modern times, and I'm going to do a bit of deep dive on the modern times. And I put there that's it's a timeline that I built. It's not taken from anywhere. And I put there the first PM book guide, 1996. The first PM book guide in 1996 was based on process groups which are more or less aligned to the waterfall model introduced by Winston Rice. And it was all by respect the standard, okay? Anything that had to do with emotional intelligence was secondary and started to be added afterwards, mostly as knowledge areas. For those of you familiar with the PM book, so we had communication management, we had stakeholder management, but the main thing was respect the standard, correct? Are you familiar with the PM book standard? Then what happened? Then the Agile Manifesto happened in 2001, and very rapidly, Agile has become mainstream. And there are many big shifts happening through Agile, but there is an important shift that happened in terms of the emotional intelligence needed. Because what was important before the whole Agile revolution was the project manager was responsible. The project manager was in charge. He was involving other people in the decision, but he was in charge. He was taking the shots. He had the responsibility. It was an I, pretty much. Agile shifted a bit to them. The project manager role started to change, and it was very much about social interaction, social management, make the team responsible. And that was a lot of social, a lot of them. What happened afterwards? It happened that many companies were not doing actually Agile, were doing a lot of hybrids, or they're using also not the principles of Agile, but some kind of a standard. They're using only the ceremonies. And at some, sorry, I think somebody opened the mic. Okay, and at some point in 2021, the new standard from PMI appeared. I think Razvan told in the introduction that I'm a big fan of the tailoring concept, and what the new PM book standard did, it legalized all the hybrids existing everywhere, and pretty much introduced the idea that it's okay to do whatever kind of project approach you want to take. It's waterfallish, agile, hybridish, whatever you want, but you have to respect the principles. And for the people who don't know the difference between those two, that there are 12 principles: stewardship, team, stakeholders, value, system thinking, leadership, tailoring, quality, complexity, risk, adaptability, and resiliency, change. And if you look at all of these, how much is emotional intelligence there? How much is the new PM book rooted in emotional intelligence? What do you think? If you see all these principles, you have to take into consideration. Come on, guys, don't let me
A
drum
lot.
a lot. Okay. At some point, I asked ChatGPT to estimate, and ChatGPT said that the old PM book was and the old project management standards were 70% based on know-how and on processes, and 30% on emotional intelligence. And now it's a bit shifted. It's around 60-70 emotional intelligence and 30-40 know-how. So that shifted. But that's not enough, because we had another revolution coming up. We had the rise of artificial intelligence that we are living right now. And we have the hybrid work. And we have the rapid change of everything. So if it's something that it's happening right now, it's you have to manage uncertainty and rapid change in a very high expectations environment. And sometimes I think it feels a bit like this. It's a bit of Willy Coyote. So you have to keep up with the pace of change and deliver real value fast while maintaining the team morale and trust in an environment of continual disruption. So at that point, you really don't know what you should learn for strategy, coaching, therapy, technology. What's the first thing that you're going to learn, especially now when there are no rules? Actually, there are rules, there are principles, but you don't have a very clear standard to follow in project management. So that's why I consider that emotional intelligence is now more important than ever. And as if that was not enough, we have before it was just project manager, now we have product manager and we have project manager. And even if ChatGPT sees the cut very clear, what does a product manager do and the project manager do, in reality, things are not that simple. Any questions that you have on this before we switch to the real life examples? No? Okay. So let's see a bit of examples of real life emotional intelligence in action in project management. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some examples and I'm going to ask you a question. So first, the example, two senior developers argue over the best way to implement a feature, and the tension affects the whole team's mood. And the usual question is, what do you do as a project manager? But the answer to that is not so simple, because it really depends on a lot of, although there are some guidelines, it really depends on a lot of things. So the question I'm going to ask you, and I hope for some answers so we can do a kind of discussion, is what is the worst thing you could do? So instead of asking you what you should do, I'm asking you what is the worst thing you could do or what you shouldn't do. Anyone would like to answer this?
Maybe pick a side.
Decide for
No.
them, or pick
Yeah.
instead of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we have somebody who says pick a side. What else would be the
Let them continue arguing in the front of the team, the rest of the team.
so do not think? Okay. What else would be the worst thing? One of the worst things you could do?
Someone is saying become the third side in the conflict.
Okay.
Adrian. And
Okay.
Julia not do anything.
Okay. How often do we choose not to do anything? Or pick a side? No? Okay.
Pick a side, but not in front of them, just in our soul, maybe.
Okay. Okay, that one is easy. Let's go to the next. The first one was the example that give you on the role play. The next one is from my experience. One of the team members is not pulling full weight. That means he's not doing as much as they could. You confront him or her, and he or she gives you some excuse, but eventually continues in the same way. Common situation in real life. Pretty much. I don't know why it happened to me, and it happened to a lot of people that come to trainings. So in this situation, what's the worst thing you could do? So what are the things you shouldn't do? Anyone?
Be passive and let him continue the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Embarrassing him in the front of the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How many times would you give him or her a pass? I mean, would you accept the excuses?
How many times would I accept an excuse?
Yeah.
One time.
When things are in a gray area, it doesn't mean he or she didn't do her full share, just bits and pieces.
Yeah. I guess one time. One or two times max.
Yes.
Okay.
Adrian is saying, say, I don't care about your personal issue. You need to deliver. This is extreme, Adrian. Extreme.
Take a short break to cool down.
Extremely often.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Olguța has a better idea. Yeah, take a short break to cool down.
Okay. Next one. You have multiple generations in your team, so their motivation triggers are different. And you have an affinity bias towards a certain generation values. So, for example, some of the generation value hard work and value working overtime, and even in some generations value more work-life balance. And depending on which generation you are, you tend to have an affinity bias, which is normal. So in that situation, what's the worst thing you could do?
Stand by your affinity and try to enforce it on others.
Provide as example the other party.
Okay.
Why they can and you not.
How many times do we actually do that? No.
Pretty often.
Pretty often. You see why the question is better? What's the what are the don'ts? It's when you have something that you want to implement, okay, you can think, yeah, I can do it, I cannot, but if you think, what's the worst thing I could do, you realize and you will avoid that kind of behavior. I'll skip. A client changes the business model halfway through a long-term project. That's an easy one because it's a common one. What's the worst thing you could do?
To say
No,
yes.
thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay. What else? Yes, please. I'm serious right now. What would be other bad options in this situation?
Choose another PM.
Sorry?
Choose another PM, please.
Choose another PM, please. Yeah, but these are extremes. I'm looking for the nitty-gritty, the ones which are not so black and white.
That's fine.
Sorry?
Agree without considering the change and the impact of the change in the project, cost, timeline, and all the aspects.
Do not talk with all the relevant stakeholders. Yep. Okay. One more slide, but I think you got the idea. But I have only one more slide. A major stakeholder constantly requests new features mid-project, risking scope creep. So again. Trying to fulfill all changing without having a clear analysis, scream about contractual obligations. Yeah, all common. And we do them not all the time, but sometimes. Accept it, it's, yeah.
I was thinking, Anne, okay, we will say yes, of course, but see, this it will impact the roadmap, and maybe you can prioritize anything else. But and he's saying yes, yes, Daniela, yes, okay. But how I say to him or her that this is scope creep, because maybe they are not aware that they want more, but hey, we have this roadmap, you said that you want it in January, and we are in June, May, and we did just 3 things because you have another 5. So
You're asking me how you do that with the customer? That's a question that I get very often, and the question I reflect back is in terms of know-how and in terms of formulating the answer. ChatGPT knows it all. So many times it's not the words that we're missing; it's actually the fear of what is blocking us in delivering the message. I mean, we know many times or we could ask other people how to formulate. It's not the words that we're missing. So what is actually blocking us in delivering? What's our fear? What do we think is going to happen? And the answer is personal to every person. That's why I'm going to go to the silver bullets. Pretty much the silver bullet, what you should do in all of this is have self-confidence, have self-awareness, have emotional intelligence, speak the truth, be clear, trust your judgment and your uncertainty. Because without this, you're going to fall in the common traps. And the common traps are avoiding tough conversation, and what you said, it's a tough conversation. Over-reliance on authority or templates, or undervaluing your own ideas, or over-accommodating stakeholders, or fear of taking the lead, or decision paralysis. What should I do? Or over-explaining, or apologizing, or avoiding risk or change. What is happening right now is that we don't have this, railroad, these guidelines, because all the situations are different and all the situations are changing all the time, and all the situations are very complicated. So in all this, the information is right now one click distance of how we should formulate. So we have to understand ourselves. And in order to, why it's important to understand ourselves, because the question you asked me, Daniela, it's a question of social management area, correct? How do I say it to the customer? Yeah, let's look a bit on the model of emotional intelligence, and to understand why many soft skills training are not working and why many models are not working. Is that because we usually, from which area of emotional intelligence we start to focus on to improve from all of these 4. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management. So which area are we trying to improve first?
Ours.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Are we, or are we trying to? The
I think
question
it
was.
starts with that. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
well, you cannot be empathic and emotionally intelligent about the others if you're not, if you don't understand yourself, right? And your emotions, and you cannot manage them.
Are we actually doing that? Because many times we're thinking, okay, how do we communicate to the customer? But we're not looking inside of us. And what is stopping us? What is stopping us in asking the difficult questions sometimes? Because these are, when things are black and white, it's very easy. But in reality, things are not black and white. Things are very gray. And you rarely have the clarity of knowing you're right. Sometimes when you have to address it with people from your team that they're not doing a perfect job, they're just doing the 80%. You're not sure. When you have a little scope creep, or you think that something might impact the delivery, but you're not sure. And raising that risk will cause tremendous noise, tremendous meetings, huge rage from the customer. Are you going to do it or not? And that's where self-awareness kicks in. And the idea is that there are two types of self-awareness. And there's internal self-awareness and there is external self-awareness. And we have to have both in order to be a good leader. Because if you're low on both internal self-awareness and external self-awareness, you're not sure who you are, what to do, what others think of you. You feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel frustrated. If you have internal self-awareness, but you don't have external self-awareness, then you are clear who you are, but you don't seek the perspective of others, and you limit your success. That's a situation which doesn't appear so often as the other of pleaser. When you have external self-awareness, but you have low internal self-awareness. When you're a pleaser, you're not sure who you are, and instead you may act in ways to get approval from other people. Then you may feel inauthentic and unfulfilled. And when you have both, then you're clear on who you are and you seek feedback and the perspective of others. And then you experience the full benefits of self-awareness. Now, I know that on Monday, Juliana gave you a lot of tools to help with the self-awareness. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go a bit on how to explore your self-awareness from a psychological perspective, if that's okay. Are you okay with this? Yeah. Is there a way I could do whiteboard here, or if not, I'm going to use the slide. I'm going to use the slide. So, first of all, are you familiar with the concept of self-esteem? Yeah, it's in the Maslow pyramid. We all know it. Many people know it. Yeah. And do you think there are multiple types of self-esteem, or just one?
Multiple types.
What?
You can have.
Yeah.
I don't know, just on top of my head, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe not, but low self-esteem, maybe high self-esteem, which is again bad.
Okay. Yeah, low self-esteem and high self-esteem, they are extremes, and we should focus on healthy self-esteem. That's good. But there's another classification. And in that classification, there are three types of self-esteem. One is the global self-esteem. The global self-esteem forms in childhood, in the early childhood, and it represents the way, the glasses through which you see your life, you see yourself, and you see the world. And that forms from the feelings of unconditional love. And unconditional love in two areas: appartenance, belonging. You belong to your family no matter what, and competence. We believe it's an unconditional love, which does not depend on your competence. And these two help forming your self-esteem, and that's the global self-esteem. The global self-esteem changes hard during the years and changes only when you work hard on this. The second type of self-esteem is the auto-evaluative self-esteem, and that's related to domains. I can consider myself good at project management, but it doesn't mean I'm good to sing. I'm good to do music. Yeah, it relates to certain domains. And we have a third type of self-esteem, which is the transitory self-esteem, which it's very much related to the lows and highs in our life. I delivered a project. The customer said, wow, that was perfect. Up. They said, but you forgot something. Down. And that's many times we confuse the transitory self-esteem as global self-esteem, and we chase external validation from other people. And we think that will improve our self-esteem, but then a low comes and a bad feedback, a negative feedback comes, and we go down again. Questions, if you have questions on this. No question? It's something that you're familiar with this concept?
Usually all these categories act in the same way for a person. Is there a percentage we can apply to each category?
It's not necessarily a percentage, but the way that they layer upon each other. It's the global self-esteem is the basis, and it's the one that stands in the Maslow pyramid, and it influences the other two. The higher the global self-esteem is, the less you need the transitory self-esteem, or the less impact transitory self-esteem you have has on you. Does it make sense?
Yes, but if I like to evaluate for myself, for me, in this case, how can I evaluate my self-esteem considering these three categories?
You can think how much you're impacted by the transitory self-esteem. I think there is also a test, a questionnaire on the internet. I think it's free, which evaluates your degree of self-esteem. However, what we say in psychology is that this is only the tests are just side things. It's very much dependent on each person, and it really much depends how you feel inside.
And on the moment, in fact, how you are in that moment of your life.
Yes, the moment has an impact, but the more you're impacted by the moments in your self-esteem, the more you're in the transitory part. Because when the healthy self-esteem kicks in, and there are some characteristics of self-esteem, of healthy self-esteem, like, for example, the way you accept feedback from other people, critical feedback, the confidence that you have in you, the compassion for yourself when you do something, an error, how much you beat yourself up. You beat yourself up a bit, and then you say, okay, what did I learn from it? Or you say, oh God, how could I do that? Oh, I'm stupid. How could I not seeing that? And you stay in the rumination. So that it's more on looking on the characteristic. There is no measure that you can apply and say, yeah, I'm that is transitory, that it's that's globally, and the evaluative, it's very much varies with the domain. But as again, if the global is high, that will help you learn faster anything, because you will not linger in the errors, and you will be more focused on improving yourself. I'm sorry, it's not, I'm not giving the political answer, but it's not that simple. That's it.
I'm convinced. It's for this reason I raised the question. It's and also it's not to discuss longer in the presentation. Is I intend to have a point of view on this matter. I had periods in my life when I was considering myself very good for a longer period, but I also have moments when I felt beaten from all the directions, and I was down, and I was thinking how I can evaluate, and I don't know if there is a minimum or maximum for me for this, but thank you. It's it's good.
I
We
can
can
send
continue.
you what I can share, or you can. I can share. I'll share with Daniela if she wants to share with other people. I'm going to share a slide. I don't have it, and I don't want to stop the presentation to start work.
Exactly.
Looking for it. I'm going to share the characteristics of healthy self-esteem, which are 10, and you can look on that. And nobody has all of them, or you reached illumination, but you can auto-evaluate yourself on the healthy characteristics of healthy self-esteem, and that would give you an idea of where you are. Okay?
Thank you.
Would that help?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So let's go to the usually when I do a training, I draw that on a flip chart. So I'm going to try to use this model. I know the image is not such a good quality, but it's the one that represents best what I want to share. So I'm going to use it either way, and I'm going to talk on it. So that's the ABC model. That's kind of the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy. And it says like this: we are in a situation A, which represents the trigger, like the customer that comes with a scope trip. Yeah. And we say, every time when this happens, I say, for example, I say yes, or I do some kind of behavior which I don't like, because these are the behaviors we're trying to change. With the ones when we do things which we, after that, don't appreciate, and on which the emotions take a lead. Yeah. And we say, yeah, every time the situation happens, this consequence happens. Psychology says between trigger, I'm going to, how to do this? Let's see if I can write on this somehow. Just a second. Okay, I can't.
If you want to try Anne, if you click right on your screen and say show presenter view up at the middle of the menu, show presenter view.
Okay, laser pointer. I have
yes,
have a pen.
Or pen. Or pen.
Okay, find it.
Or pen.
Found it. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have the situation. Every time the situations happen, a situation happened, we have consequences. Psychology says between situation and consequence, there is a space for response. And there it's me, B, which with my behavior, B, can change everything. Very simple in theory, not so simple in real life. And why is not so simple? Because behind the behavior, there are thoughts. Yeah? Let's say thoughts. And we call these thoughts irrational beliefs. Yep. And these thoughts are I'm going to fail. They're going to get upset. They're going to fire me. And all of this. They'll think I'm not right, or you name it. And behind these thoughts, usually there are emotions. Many times we don't realize that behind these thoughts, there are emotions. And these emotions usually are, I used to call them the holy three: guilt, fear, shame. Somewhere there is fury, there is anger as well, but anger is a special emotion because usually being angry, fury, it's only the tip of the iceberg. Fear appears to protect us from the before mentioned shame, fear, guilt. Yeah. So sometimes we don't even realize this, and sometimes the emotions drive directly the behavior. I have to speak in front of a very big stakeholder and my voice starts to tremble. That's an emotion triggering directly the behavior. Or I have to talk with somebody from other generation who is so stupid and so work-life balance. Who the fuck cares about going to the club or the disco, and we have to deliver? And I am frustrated. Yeah. Why? Because there is some fear that we're not going to deliver and so on. Yeah. And that triggers the behavior. And in order to change the behavior, or the behavior sometimes can trigger emotions, or the thoughts can trigger emotions, or the thoughts can trigger behaviors and so on. And what happens here, it's like a washing machine on automated program. Yeah, it goes and it goes, and that's our mind, which goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And in order to change our behavior, many times we have to understand the program of the washing machine. Now I would like some questions, if that's clear, or if you have any questions, or if you're familiar with this. Anyone? Yes, no, maybe. It's clear. Okay. If it's clear, do it like this. If it's not clear, do like this. No one? Anyone here? Okay.
Clear. I see a lot of hands, so.
Okay. Good. It's very simple to change our behavior, right? And improve our self-awareness, because self-awareness means to understand the washing machine program, right? Do you want me to dig even deeper? Yeah? Yes, no? Or it's too complicated already? Do I dig deeper? Yes. Okay. The washing machine, I like to say, it stays on something. And it stays on something called values. And these values, many times we got it from our family. Yeah. And sometimes these values, if you want to identify your values, you can think of the words that you heard the most when you're little. Like, I'm going to give some examples in Romanian and I'm going to try to translate it in other words. Dacă ai carte, ai parte. If you learn well, you're going to be somebody. What is if you dacă ai carte, ai parte? If you learn well, you're going to be somebody. That's you have to prioritize hard skill and know-how. And then we wonder why we don't prioritize soft skills. Because we learned we have to know things. We have to know as much as possible. And then we ask ourselves why we don't take decisions in uncertainty, because we learned from childhood that we need to have information. Yes, it's a belief that's formed as a result of some values that you heard from the childhood. You form a belief. As I said, the washing machine, with your irrational belief, with your thoughts, it started from the values in the childhood. Or o să ajungi măturător. You're going to wipe the streets if you don't work hard. Munca e brățară de aur. Work is like a golden bracelet. And then we wonder why we work so much and we go in burnout. Some people, especially women, have been taught not to raise their voice, because it's not okay for a woman to raise her voice, or to contradict other people, or to conflict. And then we wonder why would we avoid conflict? Also, we were taught the respect for authority. If we're taught very much the respect for authority, it's going to be harder for us to challenge an authority. If you have questions.
Yes, I do have one. How do you change a value or a belief?
It's different. Values, beliefs can, if it's a belief and it's not rooted in a value, then there are two questions which are the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy. One, it's, do you have any proof? I mean, work helped you get so far, for example, very hard work, but does it help you right now? It's a way you can challenge a belief. Two, the second question is, does it help me? Because it might be that's a mechanism that you don't have any proof, but it's helping you. And many times there is a thing that got us so far, but it's not the same thing that will get us even further. So we have to change. So this is the way you can challenge your belief. If it's rooted in a value, if it's rooted in a strong value, in a core value that you got from childhood, then it's harder to change. And then what I would suggest is to modify your value. And how do you do that? Usually our parents, our caregivers, gave us these values because they cared about us. So because they loved us. Even the parents who beat up their children, they did that to raise them well, because they thought this is going to help them be strong. Yeah. So they gave us these values because they were the values that were responsible for success in their time. but their time is different from ours. Yeah. For example, for those who were raised during communist times, work. I'm going to answer to that in the chat. For example, work stopped at 5 p.m. for most of people. Yeah, so you did not have the opportunity that you have right now to work 12 hours or to go home and open the laptop again and work until some point, or you didn't have the emails on your phone. Yeah, so the work can continue right now indefinitely. So the value that our parents gave us, it was helpful for that time, is not so helpful right now. So what I would say is to understand exactly. So what I would say is to transform that value into something that makes sense right now. So for example, study so you don't have to work. Right, very good. But back then you had to study a lot of books. Right now you can study soft skills or improve your soft skills because you keep your value, but you change the object. Pretty much the biggest difference in between what was imported back then and what is imported right now. Back then, the reference was other people. So you have to please other people. But right now, there are a lot of people to be pleased, too many. So the idea is to switch to be pleased by yourself. I mean, to be happy with where you are. And that is again, we're going to the healthy self-esteem part. So you don't get your self-esteem from other people. You get it first from you. You're happy with yourself, and then you adjust it with the expectation of other people, but not the other way around. So now to answer to Svetlana's question, having this belief, how you challenge the authority, where one can start from. From a simple question, understand your washing machine. That means, okay, what is the belief? If I challenge this authority, what will happen? They're going to yell at me. Okay, so what? They're going to fire me. Do I have proof? Does it help me to think like this? So at least cognitively challenge the belief. Not sure if I answered Svetlana. Thank you. Any other questions? Because if not, I'm going to pass to most common cognitive distortions or the most common irrational beliefs. Do you have questions, or should I pass to those and then we continue with the questions? How do you prefer?
Can continue, and after that, anyway, we will have the Q&A also a little at the end.
Okay, so most common cognitive distortions. What are these common? Cognitive distortions? So there. First of all, do you have biases? Yeah. Gypsies, women, we all have biases. Yeah. And they don't make us bad people, right? It's something that it is, but what we try to do, nope. Somebody who doesn't have a bias, rarely. I never met somebody which doesn't have a bias. Maybe not the common ones, but we all have, for example, affinity biases. Yeah, we tend to get closer with the people which are that share the same interest and if we're in a leadership position, for example, sometimes we tend to favor them. Yeah, because we click better. Just this is an unconscious bias. Everybody has biases, but they don't make us bad. Yeah, they don't make us bad. Yeah, but what we do with these biases, we try not to act upon them. We tend to be, we are aware of them, and we try to control our behavior, right? Or at least this is what we should do, especially if we're in a kind of management position, project manager, product manager, any type of manager. If you're with the friends at the beer, that's a different thing, but you're in a leadership position, you should try to control your biases. The cognitive distortions, and these are my words, I call them self-biases, our biases about ourselves. Yeah. They're much more than those 6 or 7 that I listed here, but these are the most common ones, especially in a business world. First of what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to ask you to keep the count. How many do you have? Okay, and then I'm going to go a bit through each of them, but first say how can we address them. Okay, but first I'm going through all of them and do the count. You can use your fingers or do lines on a piece of paper, whatever you want. First, all or nothing, black and white thinking. It has to be perfect. There is no other way. I have to deliver full. It's usually you only see 2 types of outcomes, two possibilities, and it's not all black and white. I mean, you're not like this in all the situations, but there are situations in which you see things black or white, no gray. That's first. 2, discounting the positives. You receive an email or somebody is telling you, you did a great job, and you start, yeah, but I omitted something, I left something out, or I could have done it better. So it's hard for you to receive a compliment for somebody. Yeah. You're keeping the count, right? Mental filter. Mental filter means you only favor some kind of category of evidence. So, for example, you delivered a big project, but you, in the email that you sent to deliver the project, you put there was a grammar mistake. And instead of focusing on you delivered a huge project, you focus on how could have I done this? How could I wrote this bad comma or this bad word in the there? Or how did I delivered this and I missed the budget with 10 euros? I could have done better. Yeah, you're only looking at some evidence, not at all. Jumping to conclusions, which has 2 aspects, mind reading and fortune telling. Mind reading, the customer, I think he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me as a project manager. Yeah, I think he thinks I'm not competent enough. I'm looking at the people from my team. I have is this senior that's informal leader, and I think he doesn't like me either. Yeah, you think you know how people think about you. The second aspect of it is fortune telling. Fortune telling, it's like I'm going to go to the customer and going to tell him about the scope creep, and he's going to go mad. Yeah. If I'm going to raise this risk, everybody's going to, my manager is going to make a whole drama. Keeping the count, right? The 5th, the should statements. I should do. In Romanian, it's trebuie. In psychology, we say there are two types of should. It's the imperative should. I should do this. I should do this. I should be better. I should. And the functional should. And what's the difference between them is that for one, you have proof, for the other, you don't. For example, I should learn if I want to pass the exam. That's a functional should. There is a connection between those two that's logical. If you don't learn, you don't pass the exam. But I should take an A, otherwise I'm stupid. It doesn't have a logical connection, only in your head. And we're doing a lot of those shoulds. Personalization and blame. Yeah, you tend to feel responsible for something which is not necessarily in your control. I should, and it's almost always linked with the should. I should have seen that. It's not necessarily in your control, but you think in the aftermath, yeah, you think you should have seen it and yeah, go around. And you tend to take blame, and that's a bit of a gender difference. Usually, if something goes wrong, men tend to blame the other people, the external sources. Women tend to take blame for even for what they haven't done. And these are studies which say that. And on the other hand, if something goes well, men tend to say, yeah, I've done it. Women tend to say, yeah, it was the team, it was the external factor, it wasn't me. It's not black and white again, but there is a tendency in the genders here. Labeling. Labeling, especially with ourselves. I'm stupid, I'm incompetent, and the list can go on. So when we do an error, especially it happens, especially when we do something bad, when we do an error, we start calling ourselves names. So that being said, anyone who doesn't have any? Please raise your hand if you don't have any. Anyone? Oh, all of them. Anyone who doesn't have, who only has one? Nobody? Okay. So congratulations, you're normal people. And it doesn't mean you're bad people, but what it should mean is that, like in the case of normal biases, which are towards other people, you should at least try to not let them control you. And you can think, how will these beliefs affect your work as a project manager? And if you think of all the situations and in all the worst things that you could do, which of these beliefs drive the behaviors that you don't like? How was this for self-awareness? Now, what I would like to do is go through them and say, how can you attack? What are the first steps to attack each of them? Is that okay for everybody? Or you have questions? No? Okay. Black and white. So all or nothing. If you realize, so if you went through self-awareness and you realized you're affected by the black all or nothing, black or white, yeah, then you should force yourself to see gray. So you're in a situation, you only see A or B, you force yourself to see a C. Yeah. If you want the exercise for the Olympics, you do a C+ also, or a D. And then you start assigning percentages. Statistically, what are the chances of the white happening, of the black happening, or of the gray happening? And in most of the cases, you'll see the chances favor the gray. And you can do that even, I call it post-mortem. You can look at your past experiences and see in how many cases it was black or white, or actually it wasn't one of them. In most of the cases, it was gray. So every change of the belief starts with the cognitive approach. Because what will happen if you do this analysis, at some point there is going to be the human brain has a neuroplasticity property, and there will be maybe there are no new neurons that will form, but there are new connections that will form, and it's bit by bit your brain is going to start using the gray at some point. What you can also do is put a pause. I mean, when you have to make a decision and you know you're a black or white person, don't decide in that moment based on this. Say, I'm going to count to 10, or I'm going to do a 5 minutes break. I'm going to take a 5 minutes break in which I'm going to force myself to think of gray. Yeah. That's for the black or white. The second, discounting the positives, that's the most simple one. Take a deep breath and say yes. You're awesome. You delivered an awesome project, and you feel the words coming through your mouth. Yes, but take a deep breath and say thank you instead of yes, but. Yeah. And I think it's a TED presentation. Fake it till you make it. Mental filter. When you have you have two kind of evidence. I mean, you delivered a great project, but you in the email you forgot something. You think of percentage. I mean, what's the impact of the part that you delivered perfectly good, and what's the part of the percentage of the part that you missed, and what's their impact? And when you're going, and it's good to put it on a piece of paper, because when you're going to see there that the part that you delivered right, it's 99%, and the 10%, a 10 impact, and the part you delivered, you didn't deliver so well, it's a 1%, and an impact of 0.1, that's going to help. Yeah, it's the Chinese drop way. You do this every time, and you put it on a piece of paper, and bit by bit your belief is going to change. Jumping to conclusions, that's very simple. What proof do I have? That's the most simple one. What proof do I have? And does it help me to think this way? You do this again and again and again. Should statements that you make the difference between it's a functional should, which can be proved. There is a logical connection between the should and the result of should. I should come to office, or no, I should work to receive money from the company. It's functional, it's normal, it's logical. I should do everything perfectly, otherwise they're going to fire me. That's not logical. Yeah. Personalization and blame. That's the same with mental filter. You take the part that you were actually no, it's the other. It's a bit different. It's you make two circles. it's in my control and out of my control. Yeah, I think you saw this in time management, this technique of 2 circles, or it's on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in my control and out of my control, yeah? And you look at things and you start working on those who are in your control. And then you focus on the others which are out of your control, and you start to think, I could influence those or not. Yeah, but first with what's in your control. If that happened afterwards, I mean, it's something that you missed, you look at that thing and you put percentage at the time that happened, how much of that thing was in my control? Because in most cases, you will see it was 5% in your control. And when you're going to see that bar on a piece of paper that at that particular time that was 5% in your control, that's going to change something in your mind. When and to the last one, labeling, when you call yourself names. I have only one question. If you have people in your team and they're not doing a good work, you start calling them names? No? Why?
Not nice. And
Not
it doesn't,
nice.
Yeah, I'm kidding. It doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, and it doesn't help, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
motivate people.
Exactly.
And why it should be different with you? Why you would be motivated to make a change if you start calling yourself names? Yeah. How hard does it sound right now, the self-awareness? Hard? I'm going I have only one more slide, which is it's a longer movie, but I only going to show you the first 5 minutes. It comes from Simon Sinek. And he speaks about leadership, but you can name it self-awareness, emotional intelligence. You can put everything in that place. Okay, I'm going to hit stop sharing and share it again, because I'm not sure if I said with the sound, share sound as well. So I'm going to do this, and I done it again. And now I was just about to call myself stupid, but I stopped. You see, that's
no.
yeah, that's something I forgot to tell you. These cognitive distortions are going to be with you for the rest of your life. These irrational beliefs, these things are not going to change. What's going to change is your reaction on them. Like you saw right now, I stopped even my thinking that was saying I'm stupid. That voice is inside my head, but I stopped it in half a second. 10 years ago, it would have taken me 1 hour. So that being said,
do you love your wife?
It's okay? Can you hear?
Prove it. Like, what's the metric? Give me the number that helps me know, right? Because when you met her, you didn't love her. Now you love her, right? Tell me the day the love happened. It's an impossible question. But it's not that it doesn't exist, it's that it's much easier to prove over time, right? Well, leadership is the same thing. It's about transition. So if you were to go to the gym, it's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. That's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day. You can skip a day or two. You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. Right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate. You're a leader, right? Those things are like going to the dentist. They're very important. They're good for reminding us or getting us back on track, learning new lessons. But it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you went to the fridge to get yourself a drink, you got her one without even asking. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. I can't tell you exactly what day, and it was no particular thing you did. It was the accumulation of all of those little things that she woke up one day and as if she pressed a button, she goes, I love him, right? Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that anyone by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. People will look at little things that are good leadership practices and say, that won't work. And you're absolutely right. But if you do it consistently, and you do it in combination with lots of other little things, like saying good morning to someone, that looking them in the eye. My friend George, who's a 3-star general in the Marine Corps, he says his test for leadership, and I love this, he goes, his test for a good leader is if you ask somebody how their day is going, you actually care about the answer.
That was it. I would say that my test for self-awareness is to ask yourself how you are doing and be honest. That being said, I'm opening it for questions.
We are speechless, Anne. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. And we are waiting, yes, questions.
No questions?
Mm.
Stefan, did that answer your question? This clip answered your question around how you measure?
I have to think more probably and on this, but thank you for the things you mentioned, and I will look to the feedback from Daniela. I understood that you will send her the 10
The list.
list, exactly the list with the 10 points, and I will receive it and look over them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, if no questions, then we wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you for the information and explanation. I hope I shed a bit of light into the emotional intelligence. Yeah, keep your promises with the team and you can make sure you explain why. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne, and thank you everyone for staying with us until this hour. And we are waiting also tomorrow on our last day of the semi-marathon. I hope you will be also with us tomorrow. We'll have the chapters leaders with us, the chapters that were involved in the marathon, to find more about our initiatives and projects and conferences and webinars. All of these we do for the community, for the PM community worldwide. So I hope you will be also with us tomorrow. And thank you again for today. And thank you, Anna, again. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.